Hello and welcome back to my bedroom. Said me to no one ever, because I rarely have people over. In the community, there's lots of different dynamics and styles of relationships. I mean, you have myself and Christopher, which are like a puppy daddy, 24/7 sort of relationship. And then you have Dirk and Jesse. Now so when I got to sit down with them, I really got to kind of look into their relationship of a super kinky person and a very vanilla person and just how they interact and how they navigate their relationship. So I hope you don't mind a little change of pace this week, and I hope that you find this interesting, insightful, different. But without further ado, I will let Dirk and Jesse take it away. Hello! Welcome back to What's a Safe Word? I'm Amp.
I'm Jesse Jackman.
I'm Dirk Caber.
And today we're going to talk about some relationships, specifically kinky relationships, vanilla, kink, meeting, what happens, who's in them. We get lots of questions every week about the next episode. We should talk about kinky relationships with people who might not have the same sex drives or kinks. And so today, because you two are very sex positive and well-known sex individuals, you have agreed to come on the show and just kind of talk about it. And so thank you for coming on.
Addressing the camera, right? We're addressing you.
You can talk to me or to the camera. You can even talk to that camera if you'd like.
Hi. I don't talk to inanimate objects often.
That's why they start talking back.
Yeah, that's when you're in trouble.
But why don't you go ahead and introduce who you guys are?
Okay, I'm Dirk Caber. I'm known also in the fetish community as Tuba Jack. I've been involved in BDSM and the leather community for, closing on 15, 18 years now. I sort of ended up in the porn world. Real life, I'm a musician. I believe that creativity is something I do professionally and also something I do romantically and sexually as well.
And I'm Jesse Jackman. I am actually a senior software engineer by trade, and when I turned 38, I sort of stumbled into a part-time career in porn acting, which I've done for the last 6 years, and I very, very much enjoy it. Early on in the career, it led me to meeting this amazing man right here to my left, and I continue as a systems engineer, and I have my nice, cozy life back home with a desk job and a good career. And then once in a while, I film porn, which is so much fun.
Very nice. So although studies show that 10% of the population has actively tried a kink or is at least interested, there was also a study by the Journal of Sexual Medicine saying that people that partake in BDSM tend to be a little more extroverted, a little bit more creative, a little bit more open and kind of forgiving of certain things when it comes to sex. But what does that mean for people who are different sexual levels or different areas of sexual kink? And how do you define kink?
You mentioned that 10% of people have engaged in some kink in their lifetime, but what does that mean? What is considered a kink? It's like one person's kink, maybe another person's vanilla. You don't really know. I generally consider myself more on the vanilla side, but it's interesting. One of the many things that attracted me to Dirk here is his creativity and his open-mindedness and his intelligence, and with that correlation, it makes sense actually that he would be involved in the kink community as he is.
Sure.
When I first got involved in the leather community, I'd had a previous boyfriend who, having discovered that I had some latent interest in bondage, basically told me that anybody who had any interest in BDSM had to be certifiably mentally unsound. Mm-hmm. And I thought about that for a bit and realized, the 5 men that I knew who were in that world as I knew it were some of the most creative, down-to-earth, grounded, intelligent men that I knew. Mm-hmm. It just kind of all clicked. That made perfect sense. These are people who see past rules, who see, okay, these are the guidelines, but half the fun of creativity is once you've learned the rules of an art, how do you subvert them? How do you twist them? How do you pervert them?
How do you think outside the box?
Exactly. So when other people see perversion, it's just simply a slight alteration of what the standard norm is.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
But that's also not to say that people that are not incredibly kinky are not just as good in a relationship or somehow lesser. That's not true at all, because vanilla people are just as capable of being sexual and just as capable of being creative. They just think differently, and they have different sexual interests. They're just wired a different way.
And I think a part of the challenge that the more vanilla side of the spectrum faces is how do you allow your partner to indulge that kink, which is so important to them, while it is of less importance to you. It's difficult to let go, and let your partner or partners have the space to explore that while you realize that they're not going to get lost in that world, that they're coming back. As Dirk is always putting it, he likes the spice, but the meat and potatoes is what really keeps him going. And I'm the meat and the potatoes, apparently.
Quite well, yeah. So, you make awesome meat and potatoes. You can't have spice all the time.
This is true.
Yeah.
Well, and something tells me Dirk has a bit of an appetite.
Yes.
So I think, and I've been in this situation before where I had a partner who was not as kinky or kinky at all, and that partner, wonderful person, very GGG, like good, giving, game, and they really did try to get into the kink, but the difficulty of having kind of different kinks or different interests is if someone's not into something and they're not wired that way, it's hard for them to really understand why you enjoy it, and it's hard for them to get into your head and give you what it is you want, like your fantasy, for instance. How do you guys navigate that? What are your kinks, or what are your interests, I guess it would be if you consider yourself vanilla?
I'm a big bondage nut. The restraint of any sort has always been a fascination. I tend to be far more playful once I get somebody tied up than I am punishing in any way. Mm-hmm. It's much more about the headspace and about, okay, what do I make you think is going to happen than actually is going to happen. But by the same token, too, is I love playing both sides of things. I love being the sub, I love being the dom. I love it when you can find a scene where it works to play both ways. Finding ways to actually have that little battle of wills, mm-hmm. and so forth. So,
I get off on connection, really. Connection between one or multiple people, and to me, it's strange. When I think about kinks, a lot of the time there are tools involved, like props, toys, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. To me, that just sort of gets in the way of the connection. It's like I want person on person, not like with a rope in the way, or not with a dildo between you, or something like that. So it's to me, it's an imposition. I mean, I've talked to you about how I don't even like it necessarily when you wear cock ring.
You don't like it when I dye my beard.
No, I don't. Is that a kink? Well, yeah, we'll see.
Maybe there's a hair dyeing.
I'm dyeing it red, yes.
Yes, the red. So to me, it's like I don't see that. I see that as sort of a way of distancing yourself from your partner, not actually connecting with them. So it's hard for me to wrap my head around why this is a turn-on for you and others.
Well, I think that's also why you and I do pretty well together, even as a vanilla couple, in that BDSM is all about connections. It's not necessarily about sex between two people. It's, that dom has to sort of get off on where he's able to take that sub. Someplace he wouldn't necessarily be able to go on his own. It's an extraordinary level of intimacy. You have to be cognizant of what you're doing physically, spiritually, emotionally with that person.
And I'm not certain I feel comfortable enough to A, be in control of that for another person, or B, to let go enough to allow another person to do that for me.
Sure.
And maybe that's why kinks don't really interest me, or the BDSM doesn't interest me as much as it does for Dirk. The connection with my partner tends to rely, just for me, on ritual.
Yeah.
Like it's the routine of it that I enjoy sharing with someone, and when there's something that's thrown into it that's unusual, I sometimes have trouble adapting. He's much more adaptable.
This is it. You thrive on regularity and predictability and being able to count on a certain thing, whereas I tend to be much more, I thrive on novelty and stimulation of new types and so forth. So I want to try new things, and I want to meet new people.
Absolutely. So the real trick is how to allow Dirk to explore that and not feel like he's leaving me behind. That's tough for me. It's tough, often difficult for me.
And I think people that have different kinks have that same problem. For instance, Christopher, my daddy, he really enjoys inflicting pain and like whipping and flogging people, and that's really just not my thing. In fact, I get the exact opposite reaction that he does off of it. And of course, there was a time and a place where I had that problem of, I feel almost like the person is getting it from someone else, like they're getting their rocks off, and so you feel like you're not fulfilling that fantasy, you're not. But I think that what's also really important is just being able to communicate that, and hopefully grounding, that connection that you have with them, and seeing that they might be getting that from someone else, but that doesn't make your relationship any lesser. If anything, it's fulfilling something for them, and therefore making it better when they're back with you.
The responsibility of the one who goes out and tries something else is always to come back and hopefully bring back a little something with you every time. Be able to, enrich the relationship with
So long as it's not contagious.
Right. I'm sure most of our fans already know that we only have one rule in our relationship: is never bring home anything you don't want to share. And that includes contagion, but that includes guys, that includes pizza, that includes pretty much everything. But I think that the trick for allowing, as Dirk is always reminding me, you can't be everything for one person.
Sure.
You can be parts of that person. You can be a big part of that person, but you can't fulfill someone's every need. Yeah. So I think part of letting the person indulge the kink and bonding with that person is somehow finding the space to let them do it. You're exactly right. It is part of the process of connection, is to allow that person to leave and come back.
And I think a lot of credit needs to be given to the person who's allowing that to happen, because while you don't understand kinks maybe like on a sexual level, you're able to give that space, and you guys are able to work through that. And it's very hard.
It's a very hard thing to do, and we've had more than our share of stumbles with that. It's a process. We're still working on it.
Mm-hmm. It's probably the harder of the two. I say the onus of the one going out is to make sure you come back and stay in touch and reassure them that yes, I'm here. You're not rid of me that easily. When you're already so immersed in the idea that your comfort is the regularity and the reliability of things, that's not a reliable thing at all. You just never know when he doesn't know if I'm going to go out there meet somebody who's frankly a better match because for example, he's always worried about me finding somebody who's a more kinky person to be a better match.
Scary.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just that's just it is. On the other hand, there's all this here which I'm so totally in love with, and. Of course, I'm coming back. But in the meantime, I've made another good friend. You end up with a lot of friends with a lot of these people as well.
Well, thank you guys so much for coming on today and just sitting down and talking. I felt like this was just a really real, easy conversation. And I really appreciate you guys and just coming on.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you very much for having us on.
Of course. Before the ending of every episode, though, we always have a safe word. And today's safe word is... You get to choose one. You get to choose it.
Oh, my. Cantaloupes. Cantaloupes. Let's do cantaloupes.
Cantaloupes?
Yeah.
Because
cantaloupes.
Cantalopes.
You can't elope without someone to have sex with. There you go.
Yeah, ta-da.
Right back together.
Well played, sir.
So if you guys have any other questions for Dirk and Jesse, I will leave your Instagrams and your Twitters down below so people can give them to you on the social medias. Besides that, though, if you have any questions for us about relationships, leave them down below. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a like if you enjoyed this conversation, and we'll talk to you guys next time on What's a Safe Word. Bye! Wait a minute, don't go anywhere. Was that fun? Was that interesting? That was definitely different. Also, just a heads up, myself and Christopher are out of town this coming week for the holidays. We're gonna be with family, so we're not gonna have time for a fully blown episode. Phrasing. We are going to do a Thanksgiving live stream. So on Friday around 3 to 4 Pacific Standard Time, there'll be games, there'll be Q&A. So I hope you guys can join us.